Alrighty here, I'm in the shop, so I'm just going to do parts and pieces of this one here, give the general idea. I'm working on our Chevy 2500 HD, it's got a 6.0 in it. I got to do CV axles and front struts here. Um, they're both in the same spot, so it's real easy. First you got to start by taking off the cover here and then taking the wheel off. It's a 7/8 or 22 millimeter socket, just buzz them off. I got my impact wrench here. It's the IR 231. Yes, you can probably hear the line is hissing. It does leak, so whatever. Let me get that off and then we'll get back here. Alright, we got the tire and that little cap buzzed off. I had to keep the lug nuts in that. Now we have to get this cap off here. These can be kind of tricky to get off. What I like to use is actually it's a wood chisel. So it's got that tapered end to it, so I stick the flat side up against the hub and that tapered side sticking out toward me and just pound that with a hammer, and that works really well to pop these off, I found. So I will do that quick. And then there's a nut on the back side. What is it? Looks like it was a 35 millimeter on the other side. So we'll see if it's the same on this side, or they should be, because I don't think, well, I did replace one of the wheel bearings, but should be the same size nut. And then the strut bolts, there's one up here that you can either put a wrench on or something from down here, or I reach down with the long extension and socket and buzz it off. If it spins on these ones, there is right in here, it does have a hex on it. I believe it was 5/8. Sorry about that, I got a phone call. So yeah, we got to take that nut off there, and if it starts spinning, there is a hex down there with a 5/8, I believe it was. And then I take this ball joint, the top ball joint out here, 18 millimeter nut on the bottom. You got to take the cotter pin out first. I was able to squeak the CV axle out without taking the ball joint out first on the other side, but I couldn't get the new one back in, so I just popped that loose and hit the knuckle right in here with the hammer. Right behind that, right in here. Just don't hit your hose or anything. Hit it with a hammer a few times, pop loose. And then we got all the bolts back in here. That guy all the way around there. Those are 15 millimeters. What was there? 6 of them, I think it was. Yeah, I think there were 6 of them. Take all of them out. I just go in through this way with a long extension and a swivel socket on the end, and pop all those out. They're not in there real tight or anything. It's pretty easy. And then the other bolt for the shock is on the bottom here. I can't really see it. Let me grab my light. So it's just a through bolt. There's a nut and the bolt comes through the other side. Again, that's pretty easy. I think that was a, oh, what size was that? I have an 11 or 13/16 for that one. Probably a metric size, but 13/16 fit it. So, yeah, let me just start taking those pieces off and I'll flip it back on here and there. Alright, so I got that ball joint crack loose. I just took a big hammer over here. I said whapped it right on the side here. Worked fine. Popped it right loose. I got the bolts out of back there. There were 6 of them, 15 millimeter heads. Didn't say that before. And then I'm working on this guy here. See, it started spinning. Shock. So this one has a, like I said, a little hex head welded on here. So I put a 5/8 wrench on there, and that'll break that right loose. I just wanted to show that. And then I got the nut off the bottom down here. When I break the top part loose, that'll loosen up down there and I can pop that bolt out. And then the CV axle, I'll be able to pull this. Once I get that broke loose, I'll be able to pull it and push it right out here. When you do break that ball joint loose, just make sure you don't pull on this too much. If you want, you can undo like the wires in this cable here, so that you're not pulling on the wire here in the brake tube. You don't want to break those, so just be careful with those. if you're not going to break them loose. So yeah, let me finish buzzing that shock out. And if you're not replacing your shocks, you'll have to either take the shock or the sway bar links out in order to get your CV axle. I don't think there's a way to wiggle it out of there without doing that. Maybe there is, but it's probably going to be a lot of finagling around. So I've done these before on my newer body style 07 truck, and they're basically the same thing, except we got struts on those ones instead of shocks, and then I just have to buzz the sway bar link loose. So let me just do that and then put everything back in. All right, here is the new CV axle and the shock that are going to be going in, and then here's the part numbers. That's a Gabriel shock. Let's see, I don't even know where the part number is here. Well, I don't know, see a part number on that one. But here is the the CV axle. So I will see if I can find a part number for that guy and put it down. So, oh, here it is. There's part number. So let me put all these in and I'll get back to you. All right, we got the new shock. It's just set in there right now. I got to tighten everything up yet. Before you tighten that bottom bolt up, you should jack up the knuckle here to about ride height. Or I do it until I lift it off the jacks just a bit. That way when you set the truck down, that bushing isn't going to be overextended. The new shocks did come with that normal nut, and then they have a jam nut that goes on top. It's a little bit thinner. So when I tighten that up all the way, I'll just throw this on. I got those 6 bolts are back in here. I haven't tightened them down yet, but they're in there. I don't know what the torque spec is. I just run them down pretty snug. I mean, use your common sense. This is the setup I have. My impact, long extension, U-joint, and then socket here. To get those all tightened up. That's the same setup I use for top bolt there. So there, that should be good. And like I said, I got the ball joint, I guess, back in here. I got the nut on the bottom, you can see right there. I got that in, and to get that in, I did jack it up a little bit and guide that into place so you didn't have to lift the hub up by hand. So alright, I will start tightening everything up here and probably get you one more shot of torquing down the axle nut here. I usually run that on with an impact, loosen it back off, and then I'll torque it back on with a torque wrench. It's 177 foot-pounds is that spec, so I will show you how I do that in a minute. Alright, I got the hub nuts torqued down, like I said, 177 foot-pounds. How I do it is I just shove a screwdriver in the rotor and lean it up against the caliper. That works great. You could have somebody hop in the truck, step on the brakes and do it. You could put the wheel back on and set it on the ground and then do it again. Bunch of different ways to do it. Alright, like I said, I got that. Got the jam nut on top, double nutted. I have this jacked up right now because I did that bolt, got that tightened down. And those guys, like the one up here, I just did till kind of the rubber compressed a little bit. I don't know, I'm sure there's an actual torque spec, but just use your head about it. Don't need to torque it down a lot, especially like this one up here with 2 nuts on it. That's not going to come off. Like I said, those guys, I buzzed them on with the impact. Again, I don't know what the torque spec was, but just be smart about it. I let it hammer a little bit, but then that was it. Guy down here, where are you at? Can't really see for crap here. I got the cotter pin sticking back out up here, that guy there. Just bend that over however you want. There, that's better. I just bent mine over like that. Doesn't really matter. It's not coming out. If you unclipped any of these guys, I unclipped that one, push that back in, and then put your wheel back on. That's pretty much everything. I mean, I think it took me maybe half hour aside with taking the video here, and the other side I was getting all my tools, so it doesn't take long. When I put those splines in, I did put on some fluid film. I like that stuff, helps keep it from corroding. Same with the bolts and stuff, I just kind of sprayed them down a bit with a little bit of fluid film before I put them all in, just to help keep them from seizing up. So that's pretty much everything I got, I think. Oh, one thing, if the CV axles are stuck together there, it's stuck with the little stub shaft that comes out of the transfer case, or the front differential. What I had to do on the other side was I took my air hammer and the chisel bit here and just got, let me show you on here's the old CV axle. So it'd be mounted up tight with that one. What I did was I would just get my chisel in here and just kind of push. You can see this, it's got little tabs. I would just gently knocked on this side of the CV axle there, and it popped right off. So pretty straightforward. So the only thing you got to do is put this little guy on. Like I said, I use that little wood chisel, and it works great for doing these, I found. It pops them off and you barely even ding them up at all. So I know a lot of people just mess them up when they're getting them off, so that's how I found works the best. So thanks for watching. If anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, put them down in the comments. And thanks for watching.